Okay, so next up will be Moroni chapter 2.
The words of Christ, which he spake unto his disciples, the 12 whom he had chosen, as he laid his hands upon them, and he called them by name, saying, Ye shall call on the Father in my name, in mighty prayer, and after ye have done this, ye shall have power, that to him upon whom ye shall lay your hands, ye shall give the Holy Ghost. And in my name shall ye give it, for thus do mine apostles. Now Christ spake these words unto them at the time of his first appearing, and the multitude heard it not, but the disciples heard it, and on as many as they laid their hands, fell the Holy Ghost.
Right, so chapter 2, as you can see, is you can see the title, it's the bestowal of the Holy Ghost. Right, and so it's talking about just that one thing that we do. We do it as the church today, and they did it back then. Right, it's describing how it was done, and therefore how we would do it today. Right, so as you can see, it says that Christ gave the instruction to his disciples on the land of the Americas, right, when he was first there, and which it mentions that in verse 3, it says he spake at the time of his first appearing. So when he came to the Nephi people, if you remember, he picked out 12 disciples, that was in 3rd Nephi, and he gave them some instructions. Now a lot of it was written down in 3rd Nephi, right, but this was not, so that's probably why he's sharing it with us here, right? Or it was probably recorded in the records, but it didn't make it into 3rd Nephi. So I guess his father, having been the abridger, he didn't include that in the abridgment. So now a little bit more room. So let's go ahead and share this information too about how they actually bestow the Holy Ghost. All right. So now notice the process. All right, and tell me if it reminds you of anything. Okay, that. Well, this was for the 12 disciples, as he was doing this for them, but then he's telling them how to do it. In verse 2, it says, Ye shall call on the Father in my name in mighty prayer, and after ye have done this, ye shall have power, that to him upon whom ye lay your hands, you'll give the Holy Ghost. Right? So, one of the key components of that, or one thing that you could overlook if you weren't looking too carefully, is the first part, where it says, You shall call on the Father in my name in mighty prayer, and after you've done this, then you'll have the power to bestow the Holy Ghost. Now, if you've witnessed the bestowal of the Holy Ghost in the church, which you would if you remember the church, if nothing else, right, because it happened when you were baptized, is that we set up the chair, the person sits in the chair, and the very first thing is the ministry usually encircles you, and we kneel down and pray. Right? We pray before anybody would lay their hands on the person. Right? And that's exactly what we're praying for. We're just asking God to give us the power to bestow the Holy Ghost. Jesus told them how to do it. He said, first you pray and you ask for the power to bestow the Holy Ghost, and then you do it. All right? So that's what we do. It says that then you'll have power upon whom you shall lay your hands, you shall give the Holy Ghost. All right? And in my name shall you give it, for thus do mine apostles. Okay? So he's giving instruction on how to do it. And so the next time you witness the Holy Ghost being bestowed, you can follow along and say that we're following these instructions, right? This is where it comes from, nowhere else, right? This is where we get that from, that first the elders pray, and then for the power to bestow the Holy Ghost, then somebody lays their hands on the person and does it, right? And the way we instruct the elders to do it is that we want the brother who's going to say the prayer to be prompted by the Spirit of God, right? That so it's not a matter of necessarily of taking turns, or you did the last one, so now it's my turn this time, or right? We want the person to be prompted, that the Lord would select the brother to lay his hands upon the person and bestow the Holy Ghost. Okay, but of course, as we pray, I believe everybody in the circle has the power to do that, right? But we like the brothers to feel prompted that the Spirit's picking somebody to say that particular prayer, right? And it's important to us as a whole that we would bestow the Holy Ghost, right? It's important to know that, because otherwise the person is cheated, right? The one who's baptized, you need the Holy Ghost to get you through this life. So it would be a terrible thing to pray and not bestow the Holy Ghost, because you need that. So that's why I want to be sure that it's happening, right? And based on what we're reading here, it does. In verse 3, it says at the end, as many as they laid their hands fell the Holy Ghost, all right? So that you follow the instructions and you can have confidence that the Holy Ghost is bestowed upon that person. Right? Now in verse 3, it's just telling how the instructions were given. Right? See, it says Christ spoke these words at the time of his first appearing, it says the multitude heard it not, but only the disciples. Right? 'Cause he just gave the instructions to the 12 who would be, at that time, the ones doing it. Right? Those 12 were going to be the only ones doing it at the beginning. Now, they later taught others, who taught others, who taught others, right? But at the beginning, it was just going to be those 12. So Jesus met with those 12 kind of privately and said, okay, this is how it goes. And so it says everybody else didn't hear that, but they knew how to do it. This is when they were going to bestow the Holy Ghost, they would know the instructions and the process to get it done.